Okay, guys, great question came in the other day in the Qigong class, which was, what is the difference between enlightenment and realization? In which I replied that, as far as I'm concerned, they're the same thing. It's just different teachers, different traditions have different language and lingo. The next question they asked at the back of that, how do I become enlightened or realized? And so this is always the question you volley back when someone asks that, which is, who is the I that is trying to become enlightened or realized? And that is the hallmark and nuts and bolts of what spirituality, meditation, internal alchemy is, which is trying to find that illusory me and realizing that it is an illusion, that individual, personal self isn't there. And that is where science and spirituality land on the same page, in regards to both have tried to find it and can't. And so with neuroscience, not finding an individual center or controller and believing that maybe it's just a ever-changing pattern of experience and memory, forging an illusory state. And so ultimately what enlightenment or realization is realizing there is no individual me and that there is just a state of consciousness. And you can get to those states, either long-term or periodically, through practice. And I'm happy to use the word practice because in Daoism and internal alchemy, we work on the body in certain positions and Qigong and structures in order to get to those states. Whereas in other practices I do in traditions like Advaita or non-duality, often called the direct path, is that you don't go via the body. And there is no practice or doing. It is just you get to that state of being through recognition and realization. And so they're not comfortable using the word practice. But ultimately, we can get to these states. And there are those that have walked amongst us and still do, that are able to stabilize in that state long term. But for most of us other mortals, often life pulls us back, and jobs and other things where it's just not stabilized yet. So there's a need to, come into that personal me, or we're pulled back into it, and then we can rebalance the system by, when we have time, going back into these states. And the more you go back and play in these states, the more you're able to stabilize or realize the futility of living in that world with that personal illusory me. And it starts to lose its value and presence. So that is ultimately what we practice. But I wouldn't get too worried at the moment of it's a total, constant, conditioned me or state long term you have to be in. Just work on the fact, like we do in classes and in the advanced alchemy, where we just appreciate the states that we get into and just allow those to flower and blossom.